Hey, everybody, welcome to Barbecue Nation. I'm JT, along with my co host, Hall of Famer Leanne Whippen to you. Leanne Whippen. Now I need to start over. Coming to you from our respective Turn It, Don't Burn It studios in Portland and Tampa. Today, we've got a very special guest. Christie was one of my very first guests on the show a long time ago. I'll just put it that way. She was 4. And we'd like to thank the folks at Painted Hills Natural Beef the way nature intended, and also the Oregon Dungeness Crab Commission. If you've never had Dungeness crab, you're missing something. That's the only thing I can tell you. So check them both out online. And we'd like to welcome Christie Vanover from Girls Can Grill. I was trying to figure out the other day, Christie, how long it had been since you'd been on the show. And I know you started Girls Can Grill back in, 2015.
Hmm.
And that's about when this show started. But I think you were on like in summer, something like that, fall, uh, late in 2016 or 2017. It's been a while.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because I was still kind of getting my feet wet early on, first couple of years, and then I jumped into competition barbecue in 2017. So yeah.
Right, right. So, um, hold on one second, ladies. I've got to do something else here. Jiminy Christmas. What a goofball I am today.
It's that golf.
Yeah, it is that golf
Yeah.
thing. First day back from 2 weeks of not recording. So, I've got the weirdness here. And David will have to edit this. So
He's gonna love you.
he's gonna love me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. All right. Yeah, it's been a while, Christie, since you've been here, and you've come a very long ways. In fact, the last time I saw you was actually last year, marching in the parade at Lynchburg, and I kind of said hi, Christie, and you said hi, and then you turned around and recognized me, and you went, "Oh, hi!" But then they kind of pushed you down the road like that, so we never got a chance to talk. What what's the journey been like to start with since you started
Um,
Girls Can Grill?
yeah, really surreal, I would say. Just completely surreal. When I started, I barely knew how to grill. I was just kind of figuring it out, and it was my blog or website kind of started as a journal of me figuring out how to cook. And I've got to credit Ray Lampy when he actually gifted me a big green egg, and I think it was 2014, if I'm not mistaken, when he was at the World Food Championships. He'd cooked on it, and they were just giving him away to locals, and I happened to be a local. Um, and that helped me kind of hone my skills a little bit, and that's part of what led me to launch the website. And then from there, jumping into competition barbecue, becoming a certified judge. Just social media. At the time there wasn't a lot of barbecue content. Now it's like nonstop, but it's just been a full evolution, and this is my full-time job now, which is crazy. If you would have asked me if I could have done that like 8 years ago. So it's been really cool, and I still think there's a lot more adventure to happen and to come.
Oh yeah, because when we talked, you were still working, I think, for the Forest Service or the Parks
Park service.
Park
Mhm.
Service. Yeah, I liked your little ranger hat though. That was
Yeah.
that was kind of cool. But in this journey, I know you've met a lot of interesting people. I'm assuming,
Mhm.
and how have those people kind of changed you a little bit or influenced you?
Yeah, well, Leanne, to start with, has always been a big inspiration to me. At that same World Food Championships I was talking about earlier, where I met Dr. Barbecue, I think that might have been the first time I met Leanne, and she was competing. And I knew about grilling, but I didn't know about competition barbecue. And I saw everybody over there doing their thing, and I was like, "This is cool. This is a space I want to be in." And then, her being the only female on barbecue pit masters, that was an inspiration as well. And so just to see somebody successful and bold and strong in that space, and there's other women as well. It's just been, those are
Well,
people have
thank
really
you.
inspired
That's
me.
very nice. And you
Absolutely.
inspire people today, and it's nice to see a woman in barbecue. And I think you've really taken it to the next level. It isn't just competition, you do so much on social media. I mean, just everything. You're brand ambassador for a lot of different companies. And it's nice to see that because there aren't that many. So thank you for
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, Leanne's and I'm being sincere for once. Leanne's been a big inspiration for a lot of people. We do get that a lot, and I'm very honored to have her as my co-pilot on this adventure. So,
Aw.
and I think we've learned a little bit from each other, but I'm sure I've learned 10 times more from her than she has from me. So, it's a good thing. It's
Your
very
blog has just grown tremendously. I mean, what kind of numbers are you looking at right now?
I get about 2 million visitors a year to my website.
That's
So, and it's
outstanding.
thanks.
Mhm.
And it continues to grow. But the main thing is I'm just trying to provide helpful content. I'm trying to find out what questions people have about barbecue. Like the number one questions always seem to be about brisket. And it always is, how long should I cook this brisket? My brisket's 10 pounds. How many hours will it take? And it's so hard to train people to cook to temperature and not so focused on time. So that's been the biggest thing. But yeah, it's been a fun ride, and I'm just trying to continue to give content that will help people become better barbecuers.
Yeah, you do not only backyard, but you do a lot on competition barbecue.
Mhm.
No, and no secrets. I mean, you're out there showing the prep and everything. And I've watched a lot and gotten some great tips. So thank you for that
Thank
too. Uh-huh.
overall, and you guys just touched on this. If you look at social media, and my feeds are full of barbecue people, as you can imagine, right? And I know Leanne's are, and I'm sure yours are, Christy. But every day there's at least 457,000 images of brisket out there on there. And but the one thing that's a little different, I think, is that, like Leanne just said, you're sharing everything with your posts like
Mhm.
that versus, here's a lovely piece of sliced brisket, or somebody stuffing it in their pie hole or doing whatever. But I think you really get to the pardon the pun, the meat of the matter,
Mhm.
and help people figure that out. And I agree with you. I think the toughest thing is to get people away from time and focused on temperature, because
Yeah.
I don't when people say, and Leanne, I think would back me up on this, like when you're doing a TV spot or something and they say, well, how long will this take? Well, hell, I don't know, but you got to get it to 195 degrees, or whatever.
Right.
So you
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
you go ahead.
I think that one thing I thought about when I started Girls Can Grill is like what my overall mission was. And I've reached a point where sure I could teach competition classes, and some competition classes cost $750 to $1,500 depending on the cook. But my whole mission is to get more people interested in grilling and get more people interested in barbecue. And as I've become connected with the competition barbecue family, I really want to see more people in competition barbecue. And that's not a cheap sport. So these new teams don't necessarily have $1,000 to drop on going to a competition class, and more if they have to fly there and pay for rooms. And so if I want to help the sport grow, I feel like I need to just provide the information I have. It's not so much about me making money. I do that in other ways. So if I can help the sport by sharing my tips and secrets and people can try them, and then it introduces new people to barbecue, and whether it's on the competition scene or in the backyard, to me, that's more important than putting extra money in my pocket. And I don't mean to diss anybody who is doing classes. I've been to so many of the classes. I
Mhm.
really appreciate them. It's just the approach that I chose to take to help build the community.
When did you know it was time to pull the plug on a day job, so to speak, and jump into this 24/7?
I planned for it for quite a while. So I worked for the federal government, which was a benefit because after 20 years, I earn a pension. Once I turn of a certain age, then I'll get my pension. But I knew that it was a place I wanted to be about 5 years prior to my retirement date. And so I just knew what I needed to do myself to financially prepare to pay off debt, and get everything like in order so that once that date came where I hit my 20-year mark, that I was set and I was ready, and that Girls Can Grow was financially sound on its own. So it's not something that somebody could wisely just say, okay, I'm going to retire tomorrow. I think if you plan for it, though, it's definitely achievable.
You're not old enough to have worked 20 years.
I am 50 years old.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah,
oh
Time
my,
flies.
oh my
it
goodness.
does.
Yeah,
It
it,
does.
it does fly like that. How does
Yeah.
your husband and your family think of all this
They
adventure?
they love it, and I think it's because of what barbecue is. It's because of the barbecue family. So every competition, my husband comes with me and my in-laws come with me, and then sometimes my parents come as well. But their favorite part is just showing up to the competition, see who's there, and then just, shooting the breeze with all the local cooks. Like, we've all become family, especially out here on the West Coast. So they're 100% down with it. I'm the sole cook on my team, but they definitely help. My husband does all the logistics, loads my drums. He keeps an eye on the pits for, the temperatures when I'm inside doing stuff in the trailer. And my mother-in-law does the greens for my boxes. So they each have their own little role, but they're 100% on board.
Well, good for you. And you
Thanks.
still are speaking to each other at the end of the weekend?
Yes, they know when I start to get to a point. I do turn into bitch mode at sometimes. So they're like, okay, time to step out of the trailer. She's having the meat didn't go well. Let's go.
Well, the upside for them, besides what you're preparing, there's a lot of free samples if you know everybody. You walk around the back of the trailer,
100%.
That's a really good thing. What do you think is the biggest thing you've learned? Not about social media and ambassador programs and all that, but as far as actually barbecuing and cooking and grilling. And I always feel that we have to kind of delineate all those, because we've got some people that listen to the show, or, grilling is not real barbecue and so on. You know that story, but that's not where
Sure.
we're going. What is the biggest thing you think you've learned?
I think because I've cooked on probably 60 to 75 different grills, the consistent thing between all of them is to learn and understand the heat of that grill itself. Whether you have a pellet grill, a gas grill, a fire pit, a charcoal grill, whatever, once you can understand the concept of heat, indirect and direct, and then you also understand the concept of meat internal temperatures and really focusing on that, like I said, instead of time, then you can master anything on any fire source, in my opinion. So once I kind of made that realization, I feel like that's when I kind of was able, the light bulb came on for me.
You've cooked on so many grills. Do you have some favorites?
It really varies. I do love a gas grill if it's just a quick, especially right now, it's, I was just telling Jeff, it was 120 degrees in Vegas this weekend. So like a gas grill where I can just turn it on, throw some meat on quickly and go back inside in the AC. I love that. Every pellet grill I've used is fine. Pellet grills are fine for me. I like the flavor of charcoal better. So right now I'm having a really good time with my Masterbuilt Gravity series, or Gravity Feed, I guess it's called. Because it functions like charcoal, where you just like set the temperature. I mean, excuse me, it functions like a pellet grill where you set the temperature, but it runs on charcoal, and I really like the flavor of charcoal. So that's been my favorite right now. But yeah, it really varies. I love a griddle too; those are always fun. Yeah.
I think that you could probably go outside and show people right now, today, that you actually can fry an egg on the sidewalk in Vegas there.
I just posted a video of that.
I saw that.
I tried. I did it in a cast iron skillet because I didn't want to get the sidewalk dirty. But they were the same temp, but they only got to like 140, and it was kind of a fail. But somebody the other day posted a video. They put marshmallows on the antenna of their car and drove around and made s'mores.
Oh my God.
So yeah, it's hot.
Yeah, it's very hot. We are going to take another break, or a first break, I should say, and we're going to be back with Christie Vanover from Girls Can Grill, along with Leanne and myself, right after this. Stay with us. Welcome back to Barbecue Nation. I'm JT, along with Hall of Famer Leanne Whippen, and today our guest is Christie Vanover from Girls Can Grill. Don't forget, you can check out, we've got a bunch of websites between Leanne and myself, and her pig powder website, my golf website, and all that stuff. But if you go to barbecuenationjt.com, they'll link to everybody there. And we're also on Facebook and Twitter and Insta, and I don't think we do TikTok. Leanne, do you do TikTok?
No.
No, I'm
No,
not.
I mean, I manage my social media myself, and I'm not very good at it. All I need is another one to deal with. No.
Yeah. I have found that, a little off subject here as far as barbecue, but I have found that the more advice I take from people, the more time I'm sitting at this desk posting stuff, and I'm like, I got other stuff to do. So I find that. Anyway, we're talking with Christie Vanover from Girls Can Grill. Christie, well, she competed in season 4 of Barbecue Brawl. How did you like working on TV? Leanne and I have a little experience in that. So,
Yeah, Leanne's the barbecue brawl champ.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I've worked in TV, so to speak, for 20 years because that's what I did for the government. I was a spokesperson for the Army, the Park Service, and the Air Force. So I was constantly doing interviews, but I was never on like the entertainment production side. So it felt natural for me, but it was definitely challenging because the competition was good. Like they were really high-end chefs, and I'm just kind of a backyard barbecue cook. So yeah, that part was definitely challenging, but the cameras didn't bother me at all.
good. Good for you. We we get a lot of guests on the show that say, we'd like to have our own TV show. And Leanne always pipes up, and I support her in this and say, be careful what you wish for. It's a
I mean,
lot of work.
yeah, it is a lot of work, but Ray Lampy's on the new one that's out now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So wishing him lots of luck.
Absolutely.
Yep, he is. And so is Sean that we met down in Fort Worth, the ex-football player. Can't think of Sean's last name right now, but he's a good guy too. Okay, back to this. When you're cooking and doing that, how would you rate your progression? Go back 8 years, like we talked at the top of the show. You were just getting started. Ray got you a green egg. I hope he got you a moving truck to move those rascals too. But and now you've worked on a multitude of different grills and cookers, from barrels to pellet grills to what have you. How would you rate your ascension in that?
I would actually say it's been cyclical in that when I started, I was doing pretty easy recipes. And then I went through a phase where I definitely got more complex and, more fancy ingredients and maybe trying to make things sexy for Instagram. And now I'm realizing that people still need the easy recipes. So like yesterday, I just posted a recipe for the grape jelly meatballs. Like that's just like a classic recipe that in the 80s was at every potluck party. And people still enjoy them today. So I was like, well, let me do those on the grill. So I think bringing back the basics and not just trying to get so overly fancy and bring in truffles and gold dust, like let's make things that people actually want to eat. And so I went through that cycle of that, I think. And now I'm kind of coming back to, I still do some kind of extreme stuff, but I still want to keep it, again, familiar to match with my mission and vision of making barbecue approachable for more people.
Do you think that sometimes people, if you will, try too hard to, and I'm not dissing them. I'm just saying, with the advent of social media, everybody's looking for that edge, if you will, because things are so spontaneous and quick, and they're looking for that edge. But I
think it's a necessity to try to get numbers. You have to find a way to like break through the noise. And so sometimes it is doing stuff that's wild and crazy. Honestly, I don't think there's any rules to social media and actually making something hit. It just sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for somebody to like stuff a bowling ball and then say, this is the greatest new thing like that. I find that very fascinating. What kind of feedback do you get from the people that look at your blog and your videos and all that? I mean, I'm sure it's 99.9% positive because you do such a great job, but what do they come from? Do they come from, I don't understand, again, back to the time versus temp, or is it, how do you trim a brisket? What is it?
Yeah, I think I have a really weird mix of people on who follow me. And by weird, I just mean that they're complete diverse in that I have competition cooks. Many of them are the new cooks who are looking for tips and tricks and they want to get into the sport. But then I have a really huge following of people who use the Ninja Grill, the outdoor grill, because I was on the infomercial a couple years back. And so they are mainly new to barbecue. Like this is the first grill that they got. So I have this mix of kind of teaching people from the very beginning, like how do I cook a chicken thigh on my Ninja Grill, all the way to how do I do a competition chicken thigh trim for an upcoming competition. So it is very diverse in that range. But most of the time, the feedback is positive. When my algorithms hit in the grill space, it is a lot of people saying, oh, this was so helpful, thank you. And they'll follow up maybe if they have another question. But when the algorithms push me outside of the barbecue space, and then I start hitting the feeds of people who are not familiar, especially with competition barbecue, the comments get atrocious when they see me trim a chicken thigh because they're like, you wasted so much meat. You have no idea what you're doing. Girls can't grill. Like, I just
Oh
get all of these people that just
God.
don't understand, so then I just respond with like a picture of trophies and I'm like, okay. But yeah,
Yeah.
so it's an interesting social media world.
I think Leanne, the first time we had Harry Sue on the program, and he had we were talking about something similar, and he had a picture that he popped up of his garage with all the trophies and stuff in it, and he said that usually shuts most of them up, if I remember that story correctly. Yeah, it's good. When you get an idea, when you get inspired to do something, Christy, what is the impetus for that? Can it just come out of nowhere, or uh, I know like Leanne's is she'll be thinking of some sort of perhaps, and this is just one of them, and a classic recipe, and go, but we could do this
Mhm.
with it. I could do this
Yeah.
with it, and she's so good at that um, most people that would just go
A
right
lot of the
out.
time, just for myself, I use what I have on hand. I hate wasting things. All right. So I did a Sam's Club event and there was leftover cream cheese, like 3 pounds of it. So I was like, what am I going to do with 3 pounds of cheese, cream cheese, hence the cheesecake behind me. So I try to use what I have and then try to twist it and do something a little bit unusual or something that I've been wanting to try. I don't know what works for you, Chris, or what you think about, or sometimes social media, it's not like you're copying them, but it does
Mhm.
inspire you.
Yeah, I definitely do get inspiration from social media. I find probably the most inspiration walking through the grocery store. Just if a certain piece of meat sticks out to me, or maybe there's a new type of vegetable or fruit that I see that looks fresh at the market. But I also, this is going to sound kind of funny, but I read really old cookbooks. Like I have the White House cookbook, I have really
I
older
do
cookbooks.
Golf
too.
And
clap, golf clap.
and one of my favorite places is newspapers.com. So when I'm writing a recipe, for instance, these grape jelly meatballs, I wanted to know like what was the history of that. So I subscribe to newspapers.com and you can punch in something and you can go back and read. And I was learning about how in the 1960s, these two women decided to make a cookbook about easy recipes so that when you're hosting the party, you don't have to work so hard. You can be a guest at your own party. And so they came up with this recipe among, with several others, I think like 200 others in the cookbook. So I wanted to tell that story when I wrote the blog post instead of just making another recipe of grape jelly meatballs. So I do find a lot of inspiration in food history, I think.
Mhm.
There you go. We're going to take another break. We're going to be back with Christy Vanover from Girls Can Grill right there in the tropical city of Las Vegas right after this. Welcome back to Barbecue Nation. Ms. Whippen, Hall of Famer, is on one side of the screen here, and Christy Vanover from Girls Can Grill is on the other side of the screen. And I'm kind of way off to the side. We'd like to thank the folks at Painter Hills Natural Beef, beef the way nature intended, and also pig powder. Hit it, Leanne.
Oh, well, pig powder's been out of stock recently. Boo hoo. But I have the 24-ounce in stock. It's also available on Amazon in the smaller bottles. And the reason for the delay is I'm in the process of redoing labels and creating spicy pig powder. So,
Whoa, very
yeah,
good.
but you can get the 24-ounce now.
I
Nice.
will tell you this. I found an extra large pig powder in my pantry. And so
Mhm.
I put it in with some barbecue books and stuff yesterday for one of the raffle prizes at the
Mhm.
tournament I played in, and it was a hit. They all
Oh,
knew
well,
it.
good.
They were
That's
all aware
good.
of it. Yeah.
That's good to know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
And
Christy, you represent a lot of brands, a lot. And so who do you currently represent?
So Cowboy Charcoal is one of my main ambassadors. And then I just do kind of work with different companies all the time. So right now I'm actually working with Men's Journal on a barbecue series. So not necessarily a barbecue brand, but they want to promote barbecue. So I've been working with them, been doing, separate media interviews. Masterbuilt's always been a good partner. Ninja grills. They just actually texted me today, so I think there's going to be another project that I'm going to be doing with them. But yeah, it just varies kind of throughout the year, but primarily cowboy. Hunsaker, I've been working with them as a drum smoker for years, not so much in an ambassador capacity, but just like ThermoWorks, I'm not necessarily an ambassador, but I love their products, and so I just naturally endorse their products, and we just do fun stuff together. So those are brands that I really believe in.
Yeah,
That's
you
good.
just did a deal with Tuffy up in Utah, didn't you? You were
Yeah.
you were at a ThermoWorks bash, if you
Yeah,
will.
yeah. They launched their new wireless meat thermometer, which isn't out yet, but it's coming very soon. And so I'm really excited to give that one a whirl.
Good for
Mhm.
you. What's your favorite thing to cook outside of competition, Christy? I mean, they're
Yeah.
those are set in stone, so to speak. But
Mhm.
when you're home or if you're having guests over, by the way, you were talking in the previous segment about the uh the grape jelly meatballs, and so you can attend your own party. I went to a barbecue on July 4th. I didn't have to cook. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, that would be odd, right?
Yeah, I just kind of sat there looking like, like a meerkat or something. Anyway, what's your favorite
Uh,
what thing
Um,
to do?
Probably Colby beef ribs. We eat those probably once a week. Those are our favorite. Just throw them in the marinade and throw them on the grill, so it's a nice quick meal. But yeah, that's probably my favorite thing to cook.
And
Really hot and fast. And
what's your husband's?
he loves that too. Like I
Does
think
he?
that's why it's just. And then he loves a good burger too. Smash burger. He prefers the smash burgers. So
Mhm.
throw those on the griddle every now and then.
What's your favorite thing to do with burgers? I mean, we see stuff, anywhere from
Simple,
do what? Simple?
simple.
Yeah.
Onions, American cheese, and a pickle.
Yay.
And mustard.
Oh yeah, yeah. My husband puts mustard on his. Yes.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, do you have a secret sauce? Everybody seems to have a secret sauce.
I can make a secret sauce, but no, we just keep it plain. Now my hot dogs, I do. I mix mayonnaise, mustard, ketchup, and relish, and I love to smear that on my hot dogs. But for burgers, yeah, I just like it pretty much plain with that, like the nice. And I like to cook them in beef tallow, so I don't usually need a condiment on it. It just gets the fat from that, and good to go.
You're just making me hungry.
Mhm.
You're just making me hungry. Um, you live in Vegas,
Mhm.
and I live in the Northwest, and Leanne lives below the Mason-Dixon line over there. Um, the competitions are coming along out here on the West. Not, I mean, they've got a long ways to go to catch up to the South and to the East,
Yeah.
and the Central states, but we are seeing some growth in it here and there.
Yeah, actually, I was just reading the KCBS minutes from their meeting this week, and they talked about how the number of competitions on the West Coast is concerning for them because it is substantially lower than it has been, since I think they compared it to like 2018. Um, I'm definitely seeing fewer competitions out west. I was supposed to go to Hawaii in November, and they just announced that one got canceled, which I'm totally bummed about. But Utah has picked up. They've got a couple. I'm actually trying to host a competition in Vegas in sometime between December and February. I'm working out logistics with the location. So I think there's people trying to bring them back. But it's tough. I think financially it's tough to organize one.
It's just become so expensive that
Yeah.
I feel like competition is really kind of gone down for sure. And a lot of it I attribute to the cost of it, because
Mhm.
everybody's buying the expensive meats, to win. So it's kind of sad, really.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's definitely expensive for cooks, but also for organizers because, well, in Vegas, like I hosted a state cook-off association competition here. The location fees to use a parking lot at a casino can be $5,000 to $15,000 a day. Like you just can't afford that without
right.
sponsors. So that
Yeah.
makes it tough.
Well, and the other thing out here is that uh back in the southeast, for example, you can drive 300 miles and you can cover 3 or 4 states.
Hmm.
Out here, you drive 300 miles and you go from the northern Oregon border to the southern
Mhm.
Oregon border,
Right.
and California's worse and Nevada's really long and all that. So geographically, and the travel is very expensive out here
Mhm.
too, to try to draw people from neighboring areas to come into that.
Yeah, the furthest one I've gone to, other than the Jack, is 8 hours north to Ogden, Utah. But beyond
Mhm.
8 hours, like just makes it tough because then you got 2 days of travel usually. And yeah, I don't usually go up to Northern California unless I'm judging because it's just a long drive.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is a very, very long drive. Um, did you think 10 years ago when you kind of were starting to get interested in grilling and barbecuing and that, did you think that you would go this far? Did you think you would be where you are today?
Not at all. I remember, excuse me, when I used to cater occasionally when my husband was in the army, and I remember the day I was sitting at work and I was talking to one of my coworkers. People had asked me for a recipe of something that I catered, nothing to do with grilling, just regular cooking, and he told me about this concept called a blog, and this was in 2010, I think it was. And I was like, I don't know what a blog is. And he explained it to me. And the next day I figured it out and I got a WordPress site and I started that blog was called zestuous.com. And it was about my traveled around the world as an army wife and the different foods that I created from the different cultures and experiences that I had. Um, and I just started just throwing my ideas out there and, kind of like a diary and just sharing recipes. And then it was when I got that grill and I kind of realized that I wanted to experiment. I love being outdoors, hence that's why I was a park ranger. But I just wanted to see, can I cook all these things that I cook inside, outside on a grill? And then it evolved and evolved and evolved. And then social media kind of became big. And then that's when brands started reaching out to me. And I didn't pitch to brands at first. They would just say, hey, we're interested in what you're doing. And because my background is in public relations and marketing for the government, then I kind of realized, wait a minute, if I take the tools that I'm doing to promote the government and these government agencies and do that for myself, like maybe this can work for me. And then it just kind of all fell into place.
How
Mhm.
did you get into doing that? I mean, I know you got your undergraduate degree and your master's in
Mhm.
communications journalism and all that stuff. But how did you get hooked into working with the government? Was it because your husband was in the army already, or how did that how did that go?
Yeah. Yeah, that didn't guarantee my job by any means, but when we moved to Kansas, they list government job openings, and there was an opening to be a writer for the military newspaper, and so I applied for that and got that job. And then from there, just every time we moved, excuse me, I would always look for the public relations jobs for the government at the different places we moved to, and I was very fortunate that at most duty assignments there was an opening, and so then I took those jobs, and then once he was getting ready to retire, a job opened up in Vegas. That was with the Park Service, and then that's when I transferred to the Park Service and did public relations for them.
Were you ever in the service yourself?
No, no, no.
No, just curious. How that where do you see yourself 5, 10 years from now?
That's a great question. I hope to. My rubs have been on hold for a little while, so I definitely want my rubs back out there. I'm working with a new co-packer, so that should happen hopefully in a couple months. I hope to have a cookbook out, maybe two by then. I want Girls Can Grill to continue to grow. I've got my podcast right now that I started this year, but 5 years from now, yeah, I think I'm also trying to build a young Girls Can Grill team of new girls who are trying to get into competition barbecue because I realize like I can't lead the way forever, in my space anyway. And so I just yeah, I want to continue to be financially stable and share the love of barbecue and yeah, stay as active as possible, but also take more vacations because I don't do that.
Well, that's true. We got to go to break here in a minute and a half, but um, Christy, what besides like brisket and stuff, when people ask you about ribs, and I'm kind of hitting the highlights here with you, but that seems to be the one cook that people have a lot of problems with. I'm putting brisket aside.
Mhm.
So I'll categorize this as one of the easier things to do. But what do people hit you with when they're asking about how to do ribs?
Or do you mean from a competition standpoint or in
Or
general?
just the backyard folks.
I don't actually get a lot of questions about ribs. I mean, once they understand the 3-2-1 method, and then we have conversations about, do you want fall off the bone or do you want, bite through like we have in competition? Um, I think people in some cases are scared to cook it long enough. I think that they aren't they just don't wait for them to get all the way like bendy and flexible. And once they realize that, again, it's not a time, even though 3-2-1 is like a general like time thing.
Right.
Once I teach them like what you need to look for is this, and you can probe it and feel it and stuff like that. Then I think that I see the light bulb a lot when people finally put their clocks away.
Yeah. My wife tells me I put my clock away years ago, but that's a different deal. We are going to take another break, come back and wrap up the show with Christie Vanover from Girls Can Grill, and you're listening to BBQ Nation on a bazillion platforms and also the USA Radio networks. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the nation, BBQ Nation, that is. I'm JT. If I can find my script here, I'll keep going. We want to thank the folks also at Gorilla Grills and Heritage Steel and Hammerstall Knives. We appreciate all their help with us. And Leanne, I've got a little announcement I'll share. I told Christie before you came on the air, little announcement for you. Our film editor, Pete, sent me, I haven't looked at it, a rough cut of the first episode of Grilling at the Green.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Those things take time.
They take time. So, and Christie told me that her people in her family like to golf. So when we get closer, I'm going to let her share that with people. And so it's all good. Christie, you say in your thing you've got a 1.8 million annual readers. That's really cool. You get more than 1,000 pro tips, 400 grilling recipes, 7,500 reviews. Is there something you think you need more of? That's a great metric right there.
Thanks.
That's a ton. But is there something you're looking more for out of that?
It's interesting. I think making recipes specific to grills. So, for instance, I was grilling shrimp yesterday and I was making a cocktail shrimp style. And if I cook it on my pellet grill, I needed to put the pellet grill to 300. If I cooked it on the gas grill, it needed to be 275. And so I think just those little variances of that is helpful for people. I also think that if you own a gas grill and that's all you're going to cook on, you're more likely to look for recipes that are written for gas grills or recipes written for pellet grills. So I think that I have a pretty full library of recipes themselves, but kind of breaking them down into grill type. And I try to do that in the post itself. Like if you have this kind of grill, here's how to do it. But the game with Google, like my tri-tip on a gas grill performs really well because that's all it's about is how to cook it on a gas grill. So I think that there's room where I could do some stuff like that. And then, like I said earlier about being cyclical, I think there's some basic recipes that I can bring to the site that, like I said, with the meatballs, those aren't traditionally made on a grill, they're made in a crock pot. But I think I can take some of those classics and introduce them to the grill or smoker and put those on the site as well.
Do you think folks that use gas grills, which is actually a majority of people in this country, sometimes get a bad rap from the competition people? Not knocking anybody. It's just I've heard that so much. Like,
yeah,
and I know Leanne has too. Yeah, well, if you cook on a gas grill, that's not really barbecue or cooking. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, but it's the majority of people.
Yeah, and I mean it's the same thing with the pellet grill, but now so many competition cooks use the pellet grill for their chicken. So, I think to me it doesn't matter. It's the same argument that people have about well done steaks. I don't care if you like your steak well done. That's great. You're eating steak and you like it and it's cooked the way you like it. I don't care if you have a gas grill or a pellet grill or a charcoal grill. Like as long as you're barbecuing and you're creating good food and you're enjoying it, to me that's all that matters. So I don't get into those games. I don't know why people have to be so strong-willed in their opinions about it. Let's just celebrate that people are barbecuing.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. Yeah, I think that's very well said. Excuse me. I just had a really good question for you, and it just went out the back of my head there. So forgive me for that. Do you think that your one of your goals that you stated earlier in the show was to get more girls, more women involved in that? Is that really doable, or is it still, does barbecue still in general umbrella still have that kind of mantra of it's a guy's deal, out on the back porch, out at the back, the tailgate at the football party or whatever, Do you think that's actually you can overcome that?
Yeah, I do. And I think I've seen it over the past 8 years of social media accounts. I mean, and I think that Pellet Girls actually did help transform that because when I started in 2015, the biggest feedback I got from women is that they didn't like charcoal because it was dirty. They were scared of a gas grill because you push the button and that big poof of flame, they were scared they're going to blow something up. So once the pellet grill came out, it kind of the crock pot of the grills, you push a button and it works. And there's not a lot of cleanup. The ash is pretty small. Um, and when you do see a lot of women on social media, there are exceptions, of course, but a lot of the women are using pellet grills because it's easy and it's comfortable and they can cook or bake something that they cook indoors, outdoors. So I think that that social media has helped with the revolution. I think that I give credit to brands because they are including more women in their advertising and marketing materials than in the past. So I don't think it's ever going to be 50-50 because just if you don't like grilling, you don't like grilling, and that's okay. If you don't want to be outside and drinking a beer and having a good time out there, that's fine if you like to be inside. So it's not for everybody, but I think it's definitely the market's grown. I don't have any analytics necessarily to support that, but just from what I see on social media, I think it has.
Mhm.
So what advice would you give to people, women especially? Um, not be not be afraid of this, and I don't mean that in a fear factor, but an
Mhm.
apprehension, of course. Or do you want to kick the old man in the ass and say, "Get away from the grill. I'm doing it today." What advice would you give them?
Yeah, so I actually have an article on my website about this. And one of the pieces of advice that I give is if they have a male partner and they have a grill and he's the griller, is to talk to him and say, hey, can I make a side dish on the grill today? You make the burgers or the steaks that you're so good at. I want to try grilling asparagus, or just go out there and have a conversation with him about how he uses this grill if you're truly interested in it. And just start that up. And then if you don't have a male partner or you're single, start with a small, inexpensive grill. Even just one of those, like a Weber is a great grill to just start with, just the classic Weber. And it does come down to research because you've got to watch YouTube videos or read books or go to blogs to figure out how to do the charcoal chimney and all that stuff. But the information is out there completely compared to 2015 when I started. There weren't as many videos and it wasn't as much information as there is now.
And Leanne, I want to get your take on this before we go. I think a lot of the quote unquote secrets of barbecue have been, the lid's been taken off of those because as the advent of social media and stuff came about, YouTube videos, what have you, to get more followers, views, what have you, they had to do that. There had to be more relevant information in that for people to want to watch. And so that actually makes me happy that I think a lot of that stuff has been lifted off. Now you're not going to get everybody's, family secret for the competition cooks, whatever. You'll get a lot of it, but you won't get every bit of it. But I think that's a good thing. What are your thoughts?
I think there's such a difference between competition food versus backyard food. And I don't eat competition food. I don't particularly care for it. And I think it's hard to convey that to the viewers and people that are watching the difference between the two, because if somebody's starting out, they're going to immediately say, oh, I want to make competition barbecue. Well, I would actually steer that person away from it. And I've talked to a lot of cooks that feel the same way.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean it's going to be the best barbecue because it's done on the circuit. It's done for a variety of reasons, obviously. What the judges are looking for, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there needs to be more explanation of the difference so that people know that grilling without doing these tips and tricks from the competitors is still good and you can still make great barbecue.
Yeah. Christie, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And that actually leads me to something else that just popped in my mind that I'm kind of worried about for barbecue, and that is AI. And that is where people are using, whether they go to the new Meta AI or ChatGPT or whatever and type in, I want a brisket recipe, and it just spits out some recipe. Or I was at the CES Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas, and there was a grill where it has an app, and you can type in, okay, in my refrigerator, I have chicken, garlic, whatever else, butter, and then it would create an artificial intelligent recipe and tell you how to cook it. And my fear with that for the future of barbecue is that those recipes were never tested. So if somebody like relies on what ChatGPT spits out or what this app spits out and then spends money on meat and cooks it and it doesn't work, they're going to think that they're not a good barbecuer, that they're not a good griller because they follow their instructions and it didn't work. So I do worry about that. And I advise people, go to trusted sources for your, whether it's a video or a website or whatever, to use a recipe. But Leanne has a great point. And also understand that the recipe is either geared for competition or geared for backyard cooking.
That's absolutely correct. And trusted sources. Girls Can Grill. That's a really trusted source.
Yes, thank you.
Christie Vanover has been with us today. Christie's going to stick around we're going to do a little shorter version of After Hours. But Christie, thank you.
Yeah. And how can we find you on social media and all that, even though I know where?
Yes, you can find me at girlscangrill.com. You can find me at Girls Can Grill on pretty much every single social media platform. And then I also do my barbecue tips podcast every Thursday.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you, Christie.
Yeah. Thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely. Bye.
Thank you, Leanne. And folks, that's a wrap for the regular show this week. But we'll be back next week with another edition of what is this show? Oh yeah, Barbecue Nation. And Christie's going to stick around for After Hours. So for Leanne and myself, remember our motto here: turn it, don't burn it. Go out, have some barbecue, have some fun, and this time of year, stay cool. Take care, everybody. Hey everybody, welcome to After Hours here on Barbecue Nation. I'm JT, along with Hall of Famer, co-pilot, and Supreme Allied Commander of Pig Powder, Leanne Whippen. And today we're very fortunate to have Christie Vanover with us from Girls Can Grill. Christie was one of my first victims on this show years ago, and I've always appreciated that. And she's come a very long ways, but now we're really going to test her.
Uh-oh.
So we didn't do After Hours when you were were on before. Okay, this is
fun.
This is all fun. Okay. Couple of easy ones here. What would you say your success to failure ratio is when you're creating a new dish or a new recipe?
I would say most of the time it's spot on. I would say probably 90% of the time it maybe just needs a little tweak in seasoning, unless I'm trying something completely new. Like I tried yesterday and I went through 4 bags of shrimp. So that was an expensive lesson. Yeah, most of the time pretty good.
Okay. If you could cook for and then dine with a historical figure, who would it be and what would be on the menu?
Oh my gosh.
It's a toughie.
I know. Maybe Teddy Roosevelt, so that we could talk about national parks. It would definitely be something meat heavy. I don't even know if I've had vegetables on the table for him.
That's awesome.
Okay, Christie, if Leanne declared you supreme ruler of barbecue for a day, what would you as supreme ruler decree?
Well, I've been talking about this now. I'm just kind of focusing on competition barbecue, but I've been talking about this on my podcast, is that I want to see more variety in flavor profiles and KCBS competitions. So
Yeah.
somehow I would decree that let's change things up.
There you go. What's the biggest mistake you've ever made during a competition?
I brined my chicken thighs for too long and they turned into rubber, and I got second to last place in chicken.
Oh, well, that
And that wasn't that long ago. I think that was last year. I should have just pulled the skins off.
If you could work with one of your barbecue heroes, just you and that person spending a day just doing stuff, who would it be?
I'd go with Leanne.
Well, of course you would.
Come on.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. But I don't think we've ever cooked together, so that would be really
We
fun.
haven't. We've crossed paths a lot, and I've seen you
Yeah.
at the Jack a lot, but I haven't been competing much, although I am doing one next month.
Uh-oh.
Nice.
Uh-oh. Cat's out of the bag now.
Are you going to be in Key West doing that one?
No, this
Okay.
is in Riverview.
Okay.
Florida. I'm actually cooking with a team. They asked that I cook with them, so
Nice.
it isn't full on me. So I'm just going to help out. I don't know. It's been a while. It's been a couple of years since I did my own thing, and I kind of getting the itch again. So this will satisfy that, hopefully.
She's a lot of fun, Christie. Well,
bet.
most of the time to work around. But if you ever get that chance, just make sure you have some peanut M&Ms in your
Okay.
backpack, because she'll follow you anywhere for peanut M&Ms. Okay.
Right.
What's the dumbest thing you've ever seen done with a grill or a smoker, any type of cooker? The dumbest thing.
I don't know. Nothing is. I mean, nothing's jumping out like that stands out other than people putting meat on before you get clean smoke and then, complaining, why does it taste so bitter? But that's not really a dumb thing. It's just a lack of understanding. So I know there's been crazy stuff on Instagram. Just nothing's popping in my mind.
That's fine. Something different. If we put Christie's skills to music, what would the music be?
Country music. Yeah.
Okay, now being an old radio guy, I got to ask you, real country music or the stuff they play today?
Actually, most of the time I've got 90s country music playing in my trailer. So.
Okay. All right. I can live with that pretty easily. Do you remember the first thing you ever grilled or smoked?
Oh, yes. Actually, I do. It was when we first got married. We had a gas grill. I made barbecue chicken. I think it was quarters or thighs, and I didn't know how to grill, and I brushed them with barbecue sauce and put them on the grill raw. And they got all crispy, and I'm like, they're ready. I was a newlywed, and then we cut into them and they were raw and they were burnt outside.
I'll tell you a quick story here. When my brother's first wife, he's had a few. No, actually it was the second wife. Anyway, they bought a new house and they invited me over. I was a kid, and she made this beautiful apple pie. I mean, it was gorgeous. Tried to stick the knife in to cut it, wouldn't work. Wouldn't go in. Finally, we got it in, and my brother picked it up, and the whole pie came out of the pie dish. So that's always kind of my gold standard in things like that. If you were an animal, what animal would you be, Christie, and why?
Probably a dog, because I'm pretty loyal to people. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good. What's your favorite movie? Leanne's is Animal House.
No, it's
just because it's silly, Zoolander.
That's a good one.
There you go. What's one thing you miss about your 20s or your time in college?
I think I didn't care about things. I didn't.
Right.
I miss that there was I miss living a life without a cell phone and social media. Like I preferred life without cell phones and social media. So yeah. I miss that.
Yeah, God bless you for that. Name one book that should be mandatory reading for everyone.
The Barbecue Bible.
Okay.
Stephen Franklin.
Yeah.
What's the first thing you do when you get up in the morning?
That's personal. I mean, I brush my teeth, and then I play Wordle.
Okay. Yeah, after the preliminaries, like that. Although we did have one guest actually lay it out there, so to speak. And I was like, oh God. Okay. Do you think that cooking with and I'm not so much talking about barbecue, but just cooking, conventional cooking, can help kids who have trouble learning math?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's a great way to understand fractions and proportions. So yeah.
I think it's all good. How are we doing on time? Leanne's got us on a clock here today, and that's fine. Okay. What would be your last meal if you were on death row?
Probably Kalbi ribs, white rice, and Hawaiian mac salad.
Wow. That's good. That's good.
And maybe a slice of peach pie, a la mode.
Now I know why you're so totally upset you aren't going to Hawaii for that
Yeah.
con.
Yes.
I was going to tell you,
Yeah.
I'm going to be in Hawaii at the end of November. And I was thinking, man, if that's the same time, I'll come over and
Oh,
track that
yeah.
down. Yeah, like that. Okay. Here is the last question. Uh, Christie Vanover from Girls Can Grill. What is your advice to the world? Here's your message. Here's your chance to give a message to the world. What would it be?
Be kind and don't stop smiling.
Good message. Good
Very
message.
good.
So I'm sorry we have to cut it a little short today, but you are always welcome back on this show. We'll try
Thank
not to
you.
make it like 7 years next time or something like that. So, but Christie, again, where can people find you? How can they look you up?
Yeah, you can find me at girlscangrill.com. Lots of recipes and tips there. I'm on all the socials at Girls Can Grill and Barbecue Tips podcast every Thursday.
Excellent. Thank you, Christie.
Great.
Thank you, Leanne.
Thank
We'll,
you.
we'll be back next week with another edition of Barbecue Nation with JT and Leanne. Until then, like I said, remember our motto: turn it, don't burn it. Go out, have some fun, and be kind. Take care, everybody.